This morning's guest is coming on air to build bridges. Find out what it's all about coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Atlantic Eye, Laser Eye Center on Highway 17 Bypass South in Myrtle's Inlet, about a quarter-mile south of Inlet Square Mall. We're focused on building bridges, and we're visiting with its chairman, Pete Sieler. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Great.
Particularly exciting with Session 5 today from 4 to 6, I believe.
Yes.
And, of course, this is the fifth of 6 sessions.
That's correct. This is the fifth. This is one of our most important sessions, and it deals with the subject of gangs. And a lot of people don't really realize how serious a problem gangs have been, especially in the Florence area. It has grown by leaps and bounds, and it's not just being involved with young kids, it's young adults and the influx of people moving in. And there are all types of gangs, and we run a real big turnout for people to come there and get involved in it to really know what's coming into our community, how to address it, how to work with it, how to become more vigilant. And, you know, because they do damage, they take money away from the community and trying to control them. So we want to get a real good community involvement in this issue.
Are gangs a real problem, Pete?
It's grown a lot in the last 3 years, tremendously. They have, last year's session was one of the most important ones we had, one of the most longest ones, I should say. It ran over. They had lots of questions. A lot of people, the 100 people that we had last year, really didn't realize that there was that much of a gang problem.
Right, sure.
Until the people from the Florence County Sheriff's Department and the Florence Police Department came in and explained and showed the telltale signs of where gangs are in. You know, they do some graffiti, how they hang out, what the clothing they wear, and even in school, these kids wear this certain clothing as a identification to other gangs that they're there. And it was a real eye-opener to the people that were in building bridges, and we anticipate this year it's going to be even bigger.
Is that right? You're expecting more than 100 folks this afternoon?
We are expecting more than 100 folks. We are anticipating we'd like to see more people. We don't care if we get 300 because it's such an important issue. And, you know, Florence is growing. Florence is really growing. We've got to deal with it. We've got to understand it. We got to know how to work with the police department to solve these problems, either through different organizations, getting people involved. And that's an important part. So tonight's session is one of our best sessions.
That's tremendous, Pete. If a viewer needs to get off to work now or get family off to school, what's the best? Is there a good phone number, or should they just show up
Well,
today?
they can just show up at the Pointer Adult Center that's on West Palmetto, right behind the First Baptist Church. And it's in room 2A.
Okay, great.
And if you say you watched it on Fox 43 or Carolina People, you get in free.
Is that right? That's a tremendous offer.
Basically, it's free to anybody because this is the fifth session of 6. We normally charge $15 for the entire 6 sessions, but since you're coming in and you want to be involved, it's a free. If you'd like to call the chamber, 665-0515.
843-665-0515 if they can't attend this afternoon, but possibly the wrap-up session next Monday.
Right. They can attend both of them. But I think today's session, when they come to this session today, they are really going to be motivated because this is a session that's really in their life and backyard. This is something that's happening, and it's going to grow unless we stop it.
Those are critical numbers when you shared, of course, that kind of turnout last year, but also to recognize that gangs are such a problem. Can the viewers in southeastern North Carolina or here on the Strand, down in the Myrtle's Inlet area, come up?
We have some people from the Grand Strand have come up and participated in some of our sessions, both as panelists and just coming to visit. So if you're living in the Grand Strand, leave town by 2, be there at 4. We'd be glad to have you. I think it's going to be an eye-opener all the way across.
That's a very good point, Pete. If folks are driving in from the beach and they're heading into Florence, the best way to get to the Pointer Adult Education Center?
That just take the 301 and where it merges within 76, come into town, And just after you go past the underpass and right by the fire station, on the left, the next corner is the Pointer Adult Center.
Okay.
Just take a left in there and you see the parking lot and you can pull in there. If it's packed and full, there's an extra parking lot with the Florence School District 1 is located right next to it.
Good,
And
great.
There's ample parking there too.
Well, of course, if there are gang problems in the PD, there are probably gang problems in southeastern North Carolina, gang problems down here. A lot of people may not be aware of it. Should anyone who attends be concerned that there's going to be any retribution there for attending a meeting to try to dispel gang issues?
No, I really don't think that's going to be an issue
Good.
thing. I think what comes to them is they need to recognize where these gangs come from, how they get here, how they get entrenched, how they get into the schools,
Right.
And how they are actually. We all think of gangs as just being like kids in junior high or high
Yeah.
school. It's outside of that. That's even young adults, working people, families have been involved in it, and that's the important part. Is when you realize how big and where it grows in, how the gangs come from. Let's say bigger cities come involved in our community, either
Right.
by somebody moving in,
Right.
establishing it, having contact with a larger gang,
Right.
and it's like a spider's web. It keeps growing out, and getting involved, understanding what it is, makes you well aware, and it's eventually going to be for tighter controls, whether it might be maybe curfews or something,
Sure.
or helping the police department and the sheriff's office identify these problems so they can
Absolutely.
keep a closer watch on them.
Well, we want to talk more about gangs and obviously about this session 5, but we also want to highlight a little bit about yourself and about the program. What prompted the Greater Florence Chamber of Commerce to kick off the Building Bridges program? Of course, Scotty Davis was with us a couple of weeks ago, I think on Monday, January 25th, to kick off the first session.
Right.
You're now here highlighting the 5th session. There's one more to go next Monday, the 3rd. But what about for folks who may not have been able to attend the first 4 sessions? What did they miss, Pete?
Well, they missed the issues that are confronting us today.
Right.
The issue, first session was just basically an overview. We had Jesse Washington as our guest speaker, and he came down and gave a very stirring speech on the issues that, as far as cultural relations and the human affairs for the state of South Carolina. And he's been our speaker for 5 sessions, so that was the 5th
Who's
one.
that, Jesse?
Jesse Washington from
Wow.
the South Carolina Human Affairs Department.
That's great.
The second session dealt with the subject of religion. And
Religion in the workplace.
not so much in the workplace, religion in the public place. The issues that were discussed, should we have under God in the Pledge of Allegiance? And what a lot of people didn't understand, that we didn't put under God until 1954. That was
that right?
inserted in the Pledge of Allegiance during the Eisenhower administration, especially when they had the Red Scare and all that. They added under God in that. So should we have under God in the Pledge of Allegiance, since we are a more diverse country now, or nation, than it was at that time? The other issue is, how should prayer be said at public places? We had 3 panelists, 3 ministers talking to us. We had a rabbi from the local Jewish temple.
Right.
We had Father Pete Cooper from the former pastor of St. John's, and we had another minister there. And they took questions
Good.
from the people that had questions about it. Should we have under God in the Pledge of Allegiance? How should we say prayer in public places? And it was such a diverse, because most of today they want to be saying prayers that, because the audience or the people, whether it might be at dinners or lunches, are from different faiths, and they try to word it in a way that would not be offending.
Right, sure.
So that was a lively discussion on that. Should there be prayers at public school events or city council meetings? What should be said? So that was our second. It was a very lively session.
I bet that was well attended.
Well attended. Now, the third session is probably the other most important one, other than the gangs, as far as being involvement by the participants. We dealt with sexual orientation.
With what?
Sexual orientation.
Okay, yeah. Is that in the workplace or just in general as well?
Workplace in general.
Sexual orientation, right.
The big discussions was don't ask, don't tell policy.
Right.
Is it a workable policy? How does it, what was the general feeling of the people? And I can tell you, in 5 sessions, I've noticed the change in the questions that people ask.
Is that right? More probing, more aware?
Probing, more aware. The first time it was about 5 years ago, a lot of people dealt it with the religious side. You know, now this session, religious side was not as strong. It was brought up as basically equating it with the issue of the situation of equal rights.
Right.
We want equal rights. We want same benefits as anybody else. In other words, their big question is you know, partners, domestic partners, whether they're gay or straight, they cannot get health insurance or anything like that under the current law in South Carolina.
Right, sure.
So that was the very heated discussion. Their basic feeling was that, you know, basically couples, whether heterosexual or homosexual, should have that possibility of domestic partners' benefits. So we had a very lively discussion on that, and then dealt more with the issue of the laws regarding that, tax benefits, if there is such a thing.
Right, right.
A lot of question was, one of the panelists mentioned that she had a partner and she's got a child. She has, if she dies, she cannot will it to the partner.
She can't will
her thing that comes back to the family.
Right.
The partner may be left out. So there was a lot of legal questions regarding that.
Oh, that's a very good point, sure.
So they were talking mostly on the practical side of domestic partner benefits, and that was a very heated discussion.
That was your fourth session.
That was
just last
the
Monday.
third section.
The third session, excuse me, I'm sorry.
The fourth session dealt with the issue of cultural sensitivity,
right,
harassment in the workplace, and that was as lively a discussion, but not as strong as the third and the fifth session usually are.
Right.
I noticed that people are more recognizant of the current laws because most places, employment places,
right,
have strict policies set with human resources and what they can and can't do. And as one of the participants in the breakout session last Monday stated, that basically we don't have the problem as much on that end as we had 4 or 5 years ago.
Right, right.
Everybody knows where they can go, what they can do, and the policies of, you know, if they have a problem, they go to human resources and it gets resolved.
Sure, sure.
So that is, but it's important for everybody to know that's important in their life, that they have some place to go if they feel that there's a harassment.
Absolutely.